2 gurus in. Dan's younger brother Andrew in, and team captain Jim. They're both in the top 8. Dan hopes to join them. We said before, this is not a must-win for John Toone. Could get in with a loss. A win will get him the 1 seed.
Winning's always nice.
A Toone, turn 1 from John, making 2 energy.
John Toone with the ether.
Oh boy. Dan Jessup, 8 ether hub. It's got basic island, basic swamp, ether hub. There is some cost here to playing 3 color in this deck.
Yes.
Not having a permanent green mana source might come back to get him. For now, he'll make Long Tusk Cub. Now for early removal out of the 4 color energy deck, we actually have a lot of it on John's side.
Yep. You see a Braid coming down there. There's also access to a couple Magma Spray and 4 Harness Lightning.
And we'll see whether or not Dan has green mana, and he does. Makes Blooming Marsh. And Winding Constrictor will join as he passes. That Aether Hub he has left up, no energy to spend on that. So despite the fact that he has 4 Blossoming Defense, 4 Fatal Push in his deck, those will not be available here. Look at his hand. He's got great follow-up plays if this Constrictor survives. Looks like he has both Walking Ballista and Rishkar here.
If Toone has another removal spell, Winding Constrictor is almost always a great target for that.
He does not. He'll cast Whirler Virtuoso. That brings him to 6 energy, potentially 2 Thopters. But now Dan gets to have that Winding Constrictor to untap with. Mentioned before, Rishkar, Ballista, both available. Could cast both of them if he wanted.
Yeah.
Wouldn't get any damage in.
More likely to just see Rishkar on this turn. Suppose you could go for just Ballista. The Rishkar gives you more mana to leverage on the following turn, making a larger based Ballista really good against this Whirler Virtuoso.
Just Ballista feels like the weakest of the options. It's not that much. When you could have a Rishkar and a 2/2 Ballista, that just feels better than a 3/3 Ballista.
Right.
So he'll start with Rishkar. Now we'll see whether Dan wants an attack or a second creature.
3 p.m. standard challenge player is Connor Jacob.
If he attacks, he can leave up Fatal Push. He'd drawn that for the turn.
That's reasonable here.
And he will, it looks like, go for the attack. So 4/5 Constrictor is going to swing in. Even with the help of 2 Thopters, John cannot attempt to kill it. So likely taking 4. He could put a Thopter in front of it, but he will not.
This matchup largely about just assembling a larger battlefield than the other player. Chip shots generally not what this is going to come down to.
Yeah, the 5 drops are so important. I mean, you know, from the full Sultai side, the card you don't want to see is Glorybringer. Confiscation Coup, a very intimidating card as well. We'll see Bristling Hydra here for John. Makes 3 more energy. He's up to 9. Could be Thopters, could be some Hexproof.
And getting the Bristling Hydra to a point where it engages in combat profitably against these 2 creatures is very nice.
One thing I'm interested about on Dan's side is what exactly he wants to do with that Hostage Taker. Talking with him earlier, he said in these matchups he wants to cast it on the same turn when he can cast the card he takes hostage. He doesn't like leaving windows for his opponent to get the creature back.
Don't want to get Harnessed Lightning.
So he'll start with a Toone. He gets 3 energy thanks to Winding Constrictor.
Whirler Virtuoso is a pretty nice hostage to take. In particular, Bristling Hydra is going to have a really difficult time punching through Thopters, though ideally you want to save this and be able to hit something like Glorybringer or the Scarab God.
Yeah, what I'd mentioned was with this Hostage Taker Glorybringer situation, it feels like if one player has a Glorybringer and the other player has a Hostage Taker, whoever flinches first loses.
Sure.
You want to be the second player to play one. Dan's going to tap all his mana here for Walking Ballista, getting 2 green off those creatures thanks to Rishkar's second ability. It means he gets a 4/4 Ballista. 6 mana, makes it a 3/3, and Constrictor pushes it to 4/4.
Next turn, he'll be untapping 7 mana sources, could potentially get to 8. And you can just go out of control with the Walking Ballista.
Right, if he has another land, he could activate it twice. An 8/8 Walking Ballista is a great way to try to win. But here's a window where if John has his Glorybringer, he has to use it to kill Walking Ballista. Or it says only use it now or not use it at all.
Yeah, well, you would cast it and then it would just die to Walking Ballista.
Right.
Yeah, If you wait a turn, yeah, exactly. That's Walking Ballista will have more counters. It can just kill it and survive.
Right. 5 mana from John. See what the play is. It looks like it's going to be Confiscation Coup. So not Chlorbringer, but I like it. It is an answer. He's not going to go for the Walking Ballista, though. He's going to go for the Winding Constrictor.
Yeah, that's a pretty reasonable take.
I was actually surprised by that. I expected him to go for Ballista.
Well, once the Constrictor is gone, the Ballista just grows half as quickly.
Sure.
Yeah, also Toone is generating energy. This can convert
That's
into
true.
more Thopter tokens off of the Whirler Virtuoso over time.
Yeah, and you see John happy to play for the late game. Had the option to attack with Bristling Hydra there, but just didn't. Thinks if both players just stare at each other for a while, John likes his chances here.
Dan picks up Hostage Taker. I almost want to just steal back your own Winding Constrictor.
Yeah, not as exciting as you would have hoped for, but I agree. He has the mana to do it as well. So he's going to cast Hostage Taker.
The nice thing about this is you don't even have to cast the Constrictor until you're going to get a benefit from the counters, because if the Taker dies, hey, it's just
yours.
back.
Yeah. Yeah, some steal and steal back. If he wants the Whirler Virtuoso here, he would have to cast it immediately. And yeah, he'll take Winding Constrictor. Going to target it.
Bristling Hydra activation response,
okay.
potentially.
Yeah, John maybe wants to put a couple counters on the Hydra. He'll spend 3 to make it into a 6/5. No response from Dan. So now it has Hexproof. Now we'll see just how much John wants to put on it. Does not have to worry about removal and response anymore.
It's mostly a question of how much is he going to need Hexproof down the line. Does he want to make any Thopters?
We'll do one more. Now it's an 8/7. I can't imagine he'll spend the last one.
Yeah, it would be very bold just to take shields completely down.
So, Constrictor under Hostage Taker. And as you mentioned, that is Dan's Winding Constrictor. And he's going to spend mana. Remember, he can spend any color to cast the card, even though it's his own card. So he'll spend double green off his creatures to cast the Constrictor and says go. Now, if John wants to be observant here, this suggests that Dan has Fatal Push.
Yep. Just leaving up that black mana there. Could also be Blossoming Defense, so that card doesn't really matter right now.
Well, because defense is green, Dan could have left up a creature if he had Blossoming Defense. A Toone from John Toone. Goes up to 6. Now has 2 activations for the Hydra and Whirler Virtuoso. He's got to find an answer again, though. Right now, I don't think the inevitability of the game is on John's side.
And for Jessup there, tapping those creatures for green is pretty free. They're not engaging in combat in either direction. So it's a pretty much a free roll to represent that you have Fatal Push. He does have Fatal Push. But
Yeah.
you probably tap like this even if you don't.
Finds a basic mountain. John's colors coming along very well. Cast Servant of the Conduit up to 8 energy. But he needs some of that late game. And we'll look at the late game he has. He's already cast the Confiscation Coup. What else? How many other 5s is he running?
Main deck has 2 Glory Bringers and 2 Scare of God. Scare of God would be phenomenal from this spot.
I think one copy of Sky Sovereign as well. Typically a good card in this matchup, though on this board it's okay.
Yeah, give me the Scare of God every time.
Yeah. Well, there's a danger, right? If this goes on long enough, and I mean by long enough, I mean 1-2 turns, this Ballista will, if it gets into the range where it's an 8/8, none of these outs work anymore. Dan will just kill every creature on site. Here is Glint Sleeve Siphoner, makes 2 energy thanks to Winding Constrictor.
Down the line, that'll draw Dan some extra cards as well. Pretty nice pickup for him. 5 mana left over otherwise. You include the 2 creatures with the counters, so he's weighing whether he wants to cast Long Tusk Cub or activate the Ballista. Given that Cub is not connecting anytime soon, may as well just grow the Ballista.
Yeah, I really like the Ballista here. Dan's win condition feels like it's just if once his Ballista gets large enough, that will be the way he wins.
Yep.
He doesn't need to attack. He controls the board.
And Toone is at 16, which is relevantly lower than 20. That's going to be a couple Ballista activations shorter to actually kill him.
You have 5 additional turns. If you have a time extension, please raise your hand and call for a judge.
I like John's side, 4 mana.
Scarab
There's
God.
a Scarab God for 5. So this is the card you had wanted him to have, and I agree. We've seen a lot of Scarab God this weekend.
Yes.
But now we get to see, is it enough? You see, it's a 5/5. Because of that Winding Constrictor and Walking Ballista, if Dan's willing, he could remove Scarab God right here.
Then John just gets to cast it next turn because it just goes back to his
Right.
hand.
So that's the interesting part, right? We have a 6/6 Ballista. Dan can make 4 1/1 counters each turn. With 1 more land, he can make 4 per turn. But John can make Scarab God each turn, which is 5 toughness. So the advantage is to John until Dan gets more mana.
Now, there aren't a ton of targets for the Scarab God just yet. There is a
Right.
Long Tusk Cub in Dan's graveyard here. But once you do get 1 zombie, you start scrying, start hitting Dan, doing something outside of combat. Enough time has passed that Walking Ballista doesn't take a ton of time for that to just kill John outside of combat.
Yeah, Dan gets an extra card this turn off Glint Sleeve Siphoner. Draws Long Tusk Cub and a tap land. So, the Fetid Pools. And rather than play the land, it looks like he's going to cycle. That'll be fine. Still has the mana up.
You'd love to draw a Hostage Taker. And
Well,
he
hostage
did draw a
hostage taker, you
Hostage
say?
Taker.
Well, hostage taker indeed. Seems great. I would, yeah, just jam that and remove Scarab God.
That's my god now. You go find someone else to worship.
Now, in that situation, how interested are you in waiting for 9 mana to just cast it immediately?
Well, he has access to 7, and he cycled his 8th mana source.
So not very.
I'm pretty into getting the Scarab God off the battlefield. Also, the nice thing, once he actually casts the Scarab God, he can just start attacking with creatures.
Sure.
Any of the stuff goes to the graveyard. You just attack with your Hostage Taker. You either force some kind of block with like a Thopter, or get in for 2 damage, or best case scenario, your Hostage Taker dies.
So he does make the play. Scarab God currently is being held hostage. Can John get it back? If he doesn't get it back this turn, and he's never getting it back.
Nope.
And we see a pair of lands in John's hand. That is not going to go his way. 9 energy, but the Walking Ballista has all this covered. You might start trying to count Thopters and say, hey, can John start going aggressive? But Dan appears to have this game under control. He draws 2 more lands this turn. He gets to make Scarab God, and then I guess how he chooses to win from there, he's got a lot of flexibility.
Yeah. He will win somehow at some time.
Right. I see here casts the Scarab God, casts Long Tusk Cub.
And so there's no real reason for Dan to get terribly aggressive, but attacking with the Hostage Takers, it does just make sense. Because you would actually just prefer that those creatures hit the graveyard.
Okay.
I suppose theoretically, if you turn too many creatures sideways, you open the door for John to get in combat. But I think Dan has enough stuff going on.
Right, I mean, Dan just has so many good things to do with 4 mana, whether it's activate Scarab God or activate Walking Ballista. They're both very fine closers.
Yeah, when you have this much inevitability, you don't
Right.
really need to get cute.
Another Bristling Hydra for John, but we've reached the spot where John's high end, his Sky Sovereigns, his Scarab Gods, they don't do enough anymore.
Yep.
And now Dan's going to go to work winning the game. He's going to make that upkeep play of eternalizing the Long Tusk Cub, scry 1, deal a damage to John. That is certainly one way to close here. see draws Blossoming Defense. That's should protect all these pieces if John draws removal.
Yep. Yeah, really, even before, it would have taken multiple pieces of interactions for John to be back in the game anyhow.
Yeah, and that just makes the number of top decks John needs one higher.
Yep.
So, Ryan, one thing which we asked going into this match, how Dan would fare not having 5 drops in his deck, not having that late game. Would Hostage Taker be good enough? Game 1, yeah, this has been great.
Real good here. I suppose that is one thing about decks with mana curves that start on 2. There aren't going to be very many runaway games in this matchup. Dan will pretty often have a window to leverage Hostage Taker.
Yeah, when I've played this matchup, the runaway games aren't generally the I'm attacking you runaway games.
They're based off mana stumbles, right?
Well, or mana acceleration, both of them. You know, the scariest thing out of the 4-color energy deck for me is when they play turn 2 Servant to the Conduit and I don't have the Fatal Push. I look at that board and I'm like, okay, I play my 2-drop and I think to myself, please don't Chandra me. And like maybe they Chandra my guy, I play something like Glorybringer, kill your guy, and then like, okay, that was a runaway. Those are the ones I'm scared of. It's not like the Long Tusk Cub aggro draws that get me. I don't lose to those much.
Right. Toone does pick up a Chandra here, but that's much too little too late.
All right, well, we have some results. One of our win-and-ins here, David Thomas, you might recall another one of our blue-white approach players, has an invitational top 8 to his name here on the SCG Tour. He wins his match going to 12-3, and we project that he will be joining us in the top 8.
You suppose that's the first ever top 8 from a player who just didn't show up to one of their rounds?
Right, yeah, he went 12-3, and one of them he missed the round. I said he went X2.
Yeah.
It's been a great tournament. We see him and Jim Davis both top 8ing playing blue-white approach. So there was a final record from David Thomas of 12-3. You could say 12-2. For Jim Davis, it was 12-2. He intentionally drew the last round, and one of those losses was a concession to his teammate, Dan Jessup. So Jim's 12-1 with the deck. Together, this is a very good showing for blue-white approach.
Definitely.
Game's progressed for a couple turns here. You see Dan just continuing to spend his mana each turn. He started growing Walking Ballista. This is a very safe way to win. He leaves back a whole horde of blockers. Eventually, you know, and you see Dan seeing if he can win earlier. He really could just 14 John with Walking Ballista. That'd be a fine way to win, and he's not too far off it.
And it remains the case that just attacking with Hostage Taker just results in something good for him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what John wants to block them with 2/3s, you know, like make nothing die. Okay.
Yeah. Hostage Taker dies, he just gets the Scarab, got it back. If it connects, that's 2 points of damage. If it bounces, whatever.
I mean, John's at 14 energy. He should get 6 more. We've been playing bingo all weekend. Nobody has a 5 in a row. You know, we're probably going to sudden death here, Ryan, but I'd take one more square. Whirler Virtuoso blocks one. Looks like Servant the Conduit's going to block another.
Looming closer to that 10-power creature myself.
Yeah, I really think this is technique-wise the best block John could make. In his situation, I'm not sure how much time as a player I'd mentally want to come up with these best plays here because I don't know that he can win.
Yes.
So, you know, while this is the best block, and it is, he's going to make some Thopters, but Walking Ballista's at the ready.
So if Dan was behind in this kind of game, absolutely. Yeah. He should concede and move on and try to win too quickly.
I guess, right, because John is 12-2, he might as well play it. So what happened here is those blocks happened. Dan is going to use Walking Ballista to finish off the Whirler Virtuoso. In response, John made 3 Thopters. And it doesn't really matter. Dan's going to pay 4, and he's going to put 2 more counters on Walking Ballista. And he's going to spend 5 of them to remove Chandra. Could spend 3 more to remove Thopters. There's just, Dan can win this game however he wants. And that's good enough for John. He'll pick up the cards and we move on to the second game.
Yeah, as soon as that hostage taker took the Scarab God, even before that.
Even before that, if he didn't have the hostage taker, Dan, I mean, like I said before, he could start playing this game of Walking Ballista versus Scarab God, and Dan's on he's on an okay side for that.
Yep.
So a long game 1 goes to Dan Jessup. He's going to try to get, 30 minutes remaining in the round. Now, before we go over sideboards, I do want to talk about our subscriptions here over on Twitch. So here's how this is going to work for our feature match area. At the conclusion of this round, we do on coverage here, we will take a 1-hour break. The tournament has to conclude. The judges have to basically conclude the tournament, set up the top 8. They deck check all the players before the top 8. So we return in 1 hour going off the air. Or we stay on the air, but we return with the matches in 1 hour. Now, half hour after this round concludes, we open voting for You Decide the quarterfinals. This is for all our subscribers over on Twitch TV. We'll get the bracket. You'll get to see the players and deck lists that you would like to have us feature. So if you aren't a subscriber yet, you can do that now and let your voice be heard. Join us in the feature match area.
You want to see more hostage takers? You want to see some approach the second sun? Probably a Raminap red deck.
Yeah, we know in top 8 we have Raminap red, 4-color energy, Sultai energy, and blue-white approach. So let's look at the sideboards here. On Dan Jessup's side for Sultai, 4 Duresses, 4 Deathgorge Scavenger, 2 Vraska's Contempt, 2 Negate, a second copy of the Scarab God, a Spell Pierce, and a Vraska Relic Seeker.
So the matchup largely hinges on these 4+ mana spells. So go and have your on that. Scarab God, Vraska's Contempt to answer your opponent's Scarab God. Vraska is just a large planeswalker. This stuff all seems good here.
Yeah, I mean, this is really a mid-range fight, so you want the more mid-rangey cards, some threats, some removal. I'm interested in Vraska Relic Seeker because how good is it here against a deck that's trying to Glorybringer you?
You don't want to get hit by the Glorybringer. Vraska does come down with a lot of loyalty, though. In fact, if you plus it right away and is hit by Glorybringer, it still has enough loyalty to kill Glorybringer.
Right, she enters with 6 loyalty and can plus to 8.
Yep.
That is, all right.
She is very loyal. So pretty into Vraska. And for John on his side, we have 4 Negate, 2 Chandra's Defeat, 2 Cartouche of Ambition, an Hour of Glory, a Confiscation Coup, a Sweltering Suns, an Appetite for the Unnatural, a Glorybringer, a Chandra Torch of Defiance, and an Abrade. Same philosophy on this side. You're going to bring in this heavy stuff, the Glorybringer, probably the Confiscation Coup. Hour of Glory is a way to exile opposing large things.
Right.
One exception is there's a good chance that John brings in his Abrade just to stop the early Winding Constrictor draws.
Yeah, I definitely like that. Sweltering Suns, I wouldn't mind to see that on John's side, especially when you have cards like more ways to answer Hostage Taker, to answer Winding Constrictors. These seem good.
Sure.
So all of those are fine. Some other winners in our X and finishing the tournament at 12-3. We have Scott McNamara, our Grixis control player, and Brennan DeCandio on God Pharaoh's Gift, both winning their matches. Now, this is going to be pretty interesting. With a John Toone win, both of them should make top 8. With Dan winning this match, there will be a player missing the top 8 in 9th place, and that'll really come down to the tiebreakers.
And looks like John is mulliganing to 6 here. Dan, of course, up a game.
So Dan Jessup, one of the 2 Jessup brothers, he is the older of the 2, one of the metagame gurus, also from Ronkonkoma, New York. 11 open top 8s along with a win, and he has an invitational top 8 as well. One thing, and this is interesting, gave up a home run to Mike Trout when he was 12 years old, baseball player.
I assume that Mike Trout is a professional baseball player.
Mike Trout is not just a professional baseball player. He is one of the, I'm way into the sabermetric side of sports. Mike Trout is statistically the player of the generation here. He is great.
So if it's just a very good player, why is it an accomplishment to lose to a very good player?
They gave up a home run to him. It means you were good enough to pitch they said that you were the guy they sent out.
I'm so good that somebody who was good outperformed me. He admits to being the second best Magic player in his house.
Yeah.
At best, the second best baseball player in the world, based on the information I have. Notably worse than Mike Trout. Probably worse than Andrew Jessup as well.
So I like that on the side that he chose to talk about himself, and the first 2 things are he's mentioning people he is worse at things. So first he's like, I'm worse at this guy than this guy at baseball. I'm worse than my brother at Magic. and I play this video. And I used to play Call of Duty competitively.
I think this should just be like, I am better than Andrew Jessup at Call of Duty.
Are you sure that's true, though? I don't know.
That could be false.
You know, because if you used to play a game competitively, I assume your brother plays too. We don't know he's better. Game number 2 on the way. John has kept a 5-card hand on the play. So tap land, a turn 1, a Toone from Dan Jessup. John with an Ether Hub. It's a bit of a, based on the body language here, John does not seem happy with his draw. We have not gotten a look at his hand just yet.
He's made 2 land drops.
He just hasn't even, up until now, hadn't picked up the cards. Just, yeah, I drew this. Go.
Maybe a handful of 5s and needs to hit just runner, runner, runner.
Or it's a handful. Or it's a handful of lands. Just like, yeah, another one of these. Long Tusk Cub's going to be the first play of the game. It's from Dan Jessup on turn 2. No removal spell from John. Draws his own cub. Says go. No lands. His hand looks to be Hydra, Glorybringer.
Hydra's only okay in this matchup, too. As you saw at game 1, he had an 8-power Hydra, and Dan didn't care.
No, I mean, a lot of this matchup comes down to creature combat, and Hydra is great against removal spells, but it is just a 4/3 for 4. It trades down a lot.
Yep.
Swing from Dan Jessup offers a trade of Long Tusk Cubs.
Well, I mean, kind of.
Yeah, the one these opponent's not going to take.
Dan had energy and John didn't, so trade.
John down to 17. No, looked like 2 2s to me.
Maybe Dan doesn't see it.
Interesting enough, you look at Dan's hand, his sideboard Spell Pierce has come in this matchup. See another Long Tusk Cub.
Yeah. Taking care of Chandra on turn 4 can be significant.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, it's another blossoming defense too, right? If you're just trying to play a 2-drop and protect it, it should protect your guys from an Abrade.
Jacob Hagen's playing a PTQ. He texted me this morning that he spell pierced to turn 1 and 2 with the Ether.
Nice.
He was very happy about that. I imagine that
would
feels
be
pretty
really good. I keep a lot of 1-land Toone hands. If my hand is just a Blooming Marsh, a Toone, and some 2-drops, I'm in. If you spell pierce it, I am so in trouble.
I gotta tell you, spell piercing expedition map is one of my greatest joys on this earth.
See, I always take the line of ignoring expedition map. It's like, you do your thing, I'll do my thing. We'll see which one's better.
Sure, yeah. 1-mana creatures don't really line up great against
like,
lands that tap for 3 mana.
It's like only 3, though.
That's it.
I don't know. I can make more than 3 mana in 1 turn if I work at it.
I'm sorry that I brought up Modern. Oh, Primeval Titan makes 100 mana. It also attacks for 50.
I mean, yeah, that's why it's great. Well, Dan's going to swing with some Long Tusk Cubs. If you notice, he has attuned with the Aether 3 times here, so there's plenty of energy here for these creatures. And he's going to put some counters on both. We'll see if John has a trick, or whether this is just a, I suppose it's time to chump block situation. Yeah, and it's a 5/5. It's not 5/1/1 counter. Some go 1 to 2 to 5. It's like,
it's
whoa.
Quite the jump. Well, it was a Monty Python reference. Dan, of course, a fan of absurdist humor.
Only one of the Cubs connects, so Dan gets 2 energy back, and that was just a chump block from John. Draws another card. He is very far behind here.
Yeah, that might have been okay if he had a braid for the Cub that he blocked, but yeah, that was not forthcoming. Rogue Refiner for John. So with Dan with 3/3 Cub, 5/5 Cub, 2 energy at the ready, that won't be making any meaningful blocks.
Sure.
Picks up Hostage Taker for the turn.
Sure. You don't have to take that guy hostage. It can't block.
Yep. But you get to draw a card if you get to cast it.
I do like drawing cards.
If John had the Abrade, you figure that would have been cast last turn.
Yeah, I mean, these Cubs are getting big enough that from Dan's side, I'm just not sure what he's worried about anymore.
There's not much reason to worry. There's very high chance that his Spell Pierce is good on the following turn. I suppose it looks like he only has 1 blue mana. That's the choking point there.
Okay, so he can't Rogue Refiner, Hostage Taker, and leave up Spell Pierce. He has, a Rogue Refiner, 2 Hostage Takers, a Spell Pierce, I mean, really, it's unclear that if John can beat the board, if Dan just does nothing. So he'll cast Hostage Taker, remove the blocker.
I suppose that if John is killing Hostage Taker, he's probably not doing anything else on the following turn.
Dan swings for 9, puts John to 3, gets 4 energy.
And has 2 2/3 lethal attacks on the following turn.
And says go. So with a win here, it does look like Dan Jessup should lock up a spot in top 8. Now on John Toone's side, there's still some questions. I think he's likely to get in. Because if you see their records weren't the same entering the round, they'll both end the Swiss at 12 and 3. What this means is between Scott McNamara and Brennan DeCandio, it's going to be a tiebreaker fight to see who gets in.
Yeah. We'll see exactly how that boils down.
Either God Pharaoh's Gift or Grixis Control coming from that spot, but not both.
And Whirler Virtuoso for Toone. That can actually make 2 Thopters here. You could get hit by Hostage Taker.
Okay. He'll
Still make 2 Thopters.
So that blocks both. All right, he is not dead.
He
No, he is.
dead.
Blossoming Defense will do it. So Dan Jessup locks that one up. 2-0. He is your winner, and he is into the top 8.
And I got to figure that game 2, of course, John stumbles there a little bit. That's not going to be very indicative of the matchup. But game 1.